The scent of rich earth and burgeoning life was, for Dr. Alistair Finch, the very essence of his being. It wasn't just a smell. It was the whispered promise of growth, a symphony composed of rustling leaves, the gentle hum of automated irrigation, and the distant murmur of data streams from countless acres. At 58, his hands, gnarled from years of tending to both soil and algorithms, traced the vast holographic display of Terraform Solutions' central dashboard, a shimmering tapestry where rolling green fields met the silent, watchful points of light that were his smart sensors. For 25 years, since Terraform was little more than a dream fueled by late-night coffee and audacious agricultural theories, he had been the chief Agritech innovator. His life was etched into the very fabric of this company, woven into the complex dance of their Harvest Foresight network. A constellation of predictive models and soil analytics, Terraform's crowning achievement, silently safeguarding global food security. Each flicker on the screen was a sprout, each data point a harvest. Lately, however, a discordant note had crept into the symphony. A shadow, not of a passing cloud, but of a presence as jarring as a sudden drought. Eleanor Vance, Terraform's newly appointed CEO, materialized beside him, her smile a practiced, almost predatory curve, as cold as the winter soil itself. "Doctor." "Finch," she purred, her voice devoid of genuine warmth. "We appreciate your foundational contributions. However, the board has decided to implement a more agile approach to crop management. We're calling it Project Yield Max." Behind her, Marcus Hayes, the new head of data streamlining, nodded vigorously, his eyes fixed on his sleek, minimalist tablet. He was barely 30, fresh from a Silicon Valley data analytics firm, brimming with theories but utterly lacking in practical agronomy. He saw the Harvest Foresight Network as a mere collection of data points, not a living, breathing system, a testament to human ingenuity and painstaking calibration. "Project Yield Max," I echoed, my voice a low rumble, my gaze still fixed on the holographic display. A subtle, almost imperceptible tremor ran through the console beneath my fingers. Intriguing. Because unless my instruments deceive me, the primary data feed from Field 7, our lead experimental plot, has just flatlined. Eleanor's smile faltered, a flicker of something akin to alarm briefly crossing her face. Marcus, startled from his digital reverie, finally looked up, his youthful confidence momentarily shaken. "What are you talking about, Dr. Finch? All telemetry reports are green." "Check the raw feed, Mr. Hayes," I instructed, my voice calm, yet carrying the weight of impending disaster. Not the aggregated dashboard, the direct stream from the biosensor array. Field 7 is experiencing a critical nutrient uptake anomaly, and without immediate manual intervention, we lose the crop, and its invaluable data. Eleanor's face, usually so composed, drained to a sickly pallor, like a blighted leaf. "You're bluffing, Finch. Our systems are fully automated." I turned from the console, my gaze sweeping across the faces of the young agronomists I had mentored, the very team Eleanor now sought to dismantle. "The automated fail-safes are designed for minor fluctuations," I explained, my voice carrying across the hushed control room. "Not for a Class 3 nutrient cascade. Only a direct, coded override, manually uploaded via the secure ground link, can stabilize it. And that override requires my unique biometric and algorithmic signature." A quiet, almost imperceptible click echoed in the silence as I placed my security fob on the console, the final, deliberate act of a man who knew precisely what he was doing. Eleanor took a step back, her eyes wide with dawning horror. "You wouldn't dare jeopardize the entire network." I walked towards the main exit, the heavy blast doors of the control room looming. "The Global Food Security Conference in Geneva starts in 4 hours, I stated, my voice echoing slightly in the sudden silence. The entire presentation on sustainable agriculture hinges on Field 7's real-time data. A $100 million research grant. You might want to figure out how to bring that crop back online before then. Otherwise, it will be quite a difficult conversation." The cold, echoing silence from the control room was my only reply. As the blast doors hissed shut behind me, carrying me down to the underground parking garage beneath Terraform Solutions' gleaming Des Moines, Iowa headquarters, I could already hear the frantic whispers escalating into shouts. My old Ford F-150, a loyal companion through countless late nights under the stars, sat in my usual spot. The very spot Marcus Hayes had, just last week, attempted to reassign to his fresh-faced, utterly inexperienced intern, citing executive access privileges. I settled behind the wheel, the quiet hum of the engine, a stark, unsettling counterpoint to the impending chaos that would soon engulf the glass tower above. 2:55 p.m. My phone, a relentless harbinger of the storm, began to vibrate, its discordant jingle echoing in the confined space of the garage. I had not merely worked for Terraform Solutions. I had breathed life into its very reputation for groundbreaking agricultural technology and unwavering reliability. It began 25 years ago, in a cramped, sun-drenched greenhouse in rural Iowa. There, I meticulously designed and refined the biosensor arrays for our first experimental crops, transforming abstract biology into tangible instruments of discovery. My father, Dr. Arthur Finch Sr., Terraform's founder, was the visionary, the one who charmed investors and painted grand pictures of feeding the world. I was the silent craftsman, the one who orchestrated the intricate dance of genetic expression, nutrient delivery, and data integrity, the relentless pursuit of agricultural perfection. We were partners then, a family enterprise built not just on ambition, but on unwavering trust and an almost obsessive commitment to enduring quality. The first subtle tremor in that foundation emerged 5 years ago. My father, weary but content, had retired, passing the torch to his hand-picked successor, Eleanor Vance. Eleanor, a rising star plucked from the glittering, fast-paced world of corporate mergers and acquisitions, spoke in endless, hollow pronouncements of disruptive innovation and lean farming operations. She saw our robust, meticulously crafted crop management systems not as a testament to resilience, but as an overly complex legacy infrastructure, a relic to be discarded. The warning signs, initially, were whispers. She'd sweep into critical USDA review presentations, utterly unprepared, then interrupt me mid-discussion, suggesting cost-cutting measures that threatened long-standing, ironclad relationships with the very government agencies and international farming cooperatives who trusted our judgment. She unilaterally dismantled our dedicated soil diagnostics team, replacing them with an impersonal, AI-driven anomaly detection system that, with infuriating regularity, flagged legitimate, hand-tuned nutrient adjustments as inefficient, a testament to its blindness, not our precision. But the true shift, the insidious corrosion, began when she brought in Marcus Hayes. A young, ambitious MBA, he was ostensibly hired to assist with global network optimization. Yet, Marcus, with a chilling predictability, spent most of his time shadowing my every move, asking pointed, probing questions about our proprietary growth algorithms, the intricate backup systems, and the fail-safe protocols that were the very sinews of our network's resilience. 2 months ago, I caught Marcus attempting to extract data from my encrypted, intensely personal agronomy archives. When confronted, he stammered, claiming Eleanor had authorized it for redundancy and future scalability. When I pressed Eleanor, her dismissal was swift and dismissive. Standard protocol for a forward-thinking company. Then, last week, the questions began to sharpen. Eleanor started asking unsettlingly specific details about my personal biometric authorization key for the bioresonance calibration protocol. She claimed the board, in its infinite wisdom, was concerned about single-point vulnerabilities and demanded multi-factor authentication for all critical functions. I, ever the loyal scientist, told her I'd consider implementing a phased rollout. I should have known then, should have seen the storm gathering. I should have realized Marcus wasn't a helping hand, but a tool for dismantling my very essence within the company. I should have understood that every process I'd refined, every proprietary technique I'd painstakingly developed, was being systematically cataloged, dissected, and prepared for my inevitable, orchestrated departure. But hope, a stubborn, foolish thing, still clung to me. I trusted Terraform. I trusted the enduring legacy my father had poured his life into. My wife, Sarah, with the quiet wisdom of years, saw it all. She'd watched me return home, the vibrant passion I once held for my work slowly eroding, replaced by a weary frustration. She listened, patiently, as I recounted meetings where Eleanor would casually dismiss my 25 years of hard-won expertise, only to parade my ideas as her own at the next quarterly review. "She's not just undermining you, Alistair," Sarah had warned me, her voice soft but firm, over a quiet dinner last month. "She's stripping away your value piece by piece. When she's done, there'll be nothing left but a ghost in the machine, a hollow shell of what you built." 5 minutes left. The call, the one I had known was coming, arrived with chilling punctuality. Eleanor Vance's name, a stark white against the dark screen, flashed on my phone. "Alistair, we need to talk." This instant, her voice, usually so composed, held a tremor. "No, we don't," I replied, my own voice, a steady anchor in the swirling chaos. Listen, perhaps I was overly direct in there. The board has been demanding aggressive changes, pushing for transformative leadership. I was trying to protect you, Alistair, truly. The familiar lie. A threadbare cloak she'd worn for months. The same threadbare cloak she'd used when she took credit for my groundbreaking work. When she hired Marcus behind my back. When she began systematically excluding me from decisions about the very crop platforms I'd meticulously crafted. The Harvest Foresight Network is initiating bioresonance calibration in 4 minutes, Eleanor. Okay, look. What do you want? We can offer you a substantial severance package, an executive consulting role, generous stock options. I almost laughed. A hollow, bitter sound. Just minutes ago, she'd dismissed me in front of the entire board, as if I were some junior agronomist caught pilfering grain samples. Now she was desperate. Now she wanted to negotiate. I want you to understand something, Eleanor, I said, my tone low, deliberate, each word a stone placed carefully. For 25 years, I've dedicated my life to building a reputation for unparalleled agricultural precision that made you and Terraform Solutions incredibly wealthy. I've covered for your operational oversights, fixed the systemic problems you created with your disruptive innovations, and watched you claim credit for work I did with my own hands. I'm not finished. You brought Marcus in to systematically learn my job so you could dispose of me. You've been planning this for months, perhaps longer. The only variable you didn't account for was this. 3 minutes. Through the thick concrete walls of the parking garage, I could discern distant shouts, the frantic, almost desperate revving of car engines as people scrambled to escape. Someone, no doubt, was racing to the main control room, foolishly believing they could manually override the compensation sequence. They couldn't. I'd learned years ago to build fail-safes into fail-safes, to protect Terraform's critical agricultural processes even from itself. More accurately, from its incompetent leadership. What do you want? Eleanor's voice, now truly tinged with genuine panic, cracked through the speaker, a desperate plea. I want you to remember this moment, I said, my voice unwavering. I want you to remember that for 25 years, I was fiercely loyal to Terraform. I believed in this company, believed in what we were building together, and you carelessly threw it all away because you were too afraid of appearing anything less than ruthless in front of your board. 2 minutes. The Geneva Food Security Conference presentation is in 58 minutes, I continued, my voice chillingly calm, a quiet pronouncement of doom. $100 million research grant. Without Field 7's real-time data, you've got nothing to present, nothing to prove. Without the client database, you don't even have their direct contact information. I could hear muffled voices in the background now, a chorus of rising panic, people shouting instructions, keyboards clicking frantically, uselessly. How? How do I fix this, Alistair? Eleanor pleaded, her voice barely a whisper. 1 minute. You don't, I said, and with a quiet click, ended the call. I started my F-150, the engine purring a low, satisfied rumble, and slowly drove towards the exit. In 60 seconds, every light in the Terraform Solutions control room would flicker into darkness. Every console would go silent. Every biosensor array, every data link, every piece of critical equipment that kept the global enterprise running would grind to a halt. And for the first time in 25 years, Eleanor Vance would have to solve a problem without me. The global agricultural network shutdown at Terraform Solutions lasted precisely 5 hours and 12 minutes. I knew this with an almost detached certainty, for I was comfortably seated in the Green Sprout Cafe, a tranquil bistro overlooking the Des Moines River. There, I savored a late lunch, observing the unfolding chaos on the news channel mounted above the bar. Agritech Giant Experience's unprecedented crop data blackout scrolled the urgent banner across the screen, while a visibly flustered reporter stood outside the darkened Terraform headquarters, interviewing bewildered employees who had been summarily sent home. My phone, a relentless digital tormentor, rang incessantly. Eleanor, 19 times. Marcus, 12. Marcus Hayes from Data Streamlining, 3 times. I allowed them all to drift into the void of voicemail. At 4 p.m., the control room lights finally flickered back to life, a faint, tentative glow. I understood the desperate measures. They had no doubt summoned an emergency engineering team, bypassed the bioresonance calibration protocol, and were now painstakingly attempting to restart critical data links from scratch. It would be a Sisyphean task, taking them days, perhaps weeks, to restore full functionality, and more critically, to address the gaping data integrity issues I had, by my absence left exposed. At 4:37 p.m., my phone chimed with a number I didn't recognize. Mr. Finch, this is attorney Julian Thorne from Thorne and Associates. I represent Terraform Solutions. We need to discuss your highly disruptive actions today. A lawyer. Eleanor, predictably, was already activating her legal cavalry. I haven't done anything illegal, Mr. Thorne, I stated, my voice calm, unyielding. Sabotage is a federal offense, Mr. Finch. Intentionally disrupting critical corporate infrastructure, causing massive financial harm to a multinational corporation. The U.S. Attorney's Office might be very interested in your activities. A faint, almost imperceptible smile touched my lips. They truly believed they could intimidate me with legal threats. The same worn-out tactic Eleanor had employed for months with her veiled threats to my job security. I implemented a standard, board-approved security protocol designed to protect sensitive company data and ensure crop integrity, I clarified, each word a precise cut. The system worked exactly as intended. If Terraform Solutions no longer employs qualified personnel to operate their proprietary technology, that's not my problem, Mr. Thorne. You deliberately created a situation where you were the only individual who could restore critical global operations, he countered, his voice hardening, a hint of frustration creeping in. I created a situation where the chief Agritech innovator had to authorize system recalibrations. I was the chief Agritech innovator until approximately 2:30 p.m. today. The lawyer fell silent for a moment, a pause heavy with his dawning realization. Mr. Finch, I think you're severely underestimating the gravity of your situation. The Geneva Food Security Conference grant, worth $100 million, was irrevocably lost due to your actions. Multiple other high-profile international clients experienced critical service disruptions and data quality issues, resulting in substantial penalties. The cumulative damages could easily reach into the hundreds of millions. Hundreds of millions. Eleanor, no doubt, had fed him inflated, panic-driven figures, hoping to scare me into immediate, desperate compliance. The Geneva Food Security Conference grant was lost because Eleanor Vance fired her chief Agritech innovator 10 minutes before a critical presentation, I asserted, my voice unwavering. Poor management decisions and a blatant lack of foresight are not my responsibility, Mr. Thorne. We have compelling documentation showing you created unauthorized access restrictions, implemented shutdown protocols without official board approval, and deliberately withheld crucial information necessary for continued global business operations. Now, the full picture emerged. They weren't merely threatening me with criminal charges. They were meticulously building a civil case, a calculated attempt to claim I'd maliciously sabotaged the company. Eleanor intended to sue me for damages, to strip me of everything I owned, to financially ruin me so completely that I could never again pose a competitive threat. Document this, Mr. Thorne, I said, my voice laced with steel, a quiet promise. Any legal action taken against me will result in full, public disclosure of all Terraform Solutions agricultural vulnerabilities. Every bypass safety protocol, every compromised data link, every reckless shortcut Eleanor and Marcus approved against my vehement recommendations. Let's see how many government agencies, how many research institutions, want to work with a company whose former chief Agritech innovator testifies under oath that their cutting-edge platforms are fundamentally flawed, negligently designed, and ripe for catastrophic crop failures. The line went quiet, the silence a testament to his shock. You're threatening to reveal proprietary information, Mr. Finch. That's a serious accusation. I'm promising to tell the unvarnished truth about the company's actual agricultural capabilities and its leadership's critical failings under oath. If necessary, I corrected him, my resolve unshakable. I hung up and, with a quiet sigh, ordered another cup of coffee. 20 minutes later, Eleanor called again. Alistair, we need to meet face to face. No lawyers, no board members, just us. Please, this is spiraling out of control. We used to be colleagues. Perhaps there's a way to resolve this that works for everyone involved. I considered her plea. Eleanor was genuinely scared now, stripped bare of her corporate armor, realizing that hollow legal threats wouldn't make her insurmountable problems vanish. She desperately needed something from me, and for the first time, she was finally ready to negotiate from a position of absolute, abject weakness. The Green Sprout Cafe on the Des Moines River, I said. 1 hour. I'll be there. But even as I spoke the words, a quiet certainty settled within me. She wouldn't come alone. Eleanor arrived 43 minutes later, Marcus Hayes trailing in her wake like a shadow. I watched them through the bistro window, a detached observer. Eleanor, a portrait of haggard desperation, paced frantically outside, her movements jerky and uncoordinated. Marcus, slumped in the passenger seat of a sleek black sedan I didn't recognize, seemed to shrink further into himself. A company car, no doubt. Another fleeting perk Eleanor had authorized for her rapidly diminishing favor with her new preferred employee. They settled across from me in a secluded corner booth, the polished wood reflecting their strained faces. Eleanor looked as if she hadn't slept in days, her eyes sunken and bloodshot, betraying the toll of her self-inflicted crisis. Marcus avoided all eye contact, his face pale and clammy, the picture of a young man terrified of the precipice he found himself on. The kid was clearly nervous, probably terrified about what his unwitting role in today's chaotic events might cost him. "Coffee?" I offered, a faint, almost imperceptible smile playing on my lips. Eleanor shook her head, her movements abrupt. "Let's just get to business, Alistair. What's it going to take to make this go away?" Her voice was hoarse, stripped of its usual corporate polish. "Make what go away?" I inquired, feigning innocence. "Don't play games, Alistair. You know exactly what I'm talking about. The legal threats, the crop vulnerabilities, all of it. Name your price." Her desperation was palpable, a bitter perfume in the air. I leaned back into the booth, crossing my arms, a picture of calm authority. "You truly think this is about money, Eleanor? Everything's about money, Alistair. Always has been, always will be." That was Eleanor Vance in a nutshell. Her world, reduced to cold hard cash, profit margins, and quarterly reports. She'd never understood that some people worked for reasons far beyond their bank account balance, for the sheer love of creation, for the pursuit of excellence. "Tell me something," I pressed, my voice a quiet, insistent probe. "How long have you been planning to terminate me?" Eleanor glanced uneasily at Marcus, a flicker of accusation in her eyes, then back at me. "It wasn't personal, Alistair. Just strategic restructuring. The board's mandate." "How long?" I repeated, my gaze unwavering. 6 months, maybe 8. The board wanted dramatic changes, wanted to bring in younger, more agile talent, reduce operational costs. "Marcus's salary is 65% of what we were paying you. 8 months. While I was working countless overtime hours, meticulously perfecting the bioresonance calibration for Field 7, ensuring its flawless integrity, Eleanor was already systematically planning my replacement. While I was patiently mentoring Marcus, genuinely believing I was training a promising apprentice, he was meticulously studying my craft, not to learn, but to usurp. "Did you ever intend to keep me on as a consultant?" I asked, a final test of her honesty. "Originally, yes," Eleanor admitted, avoiding my gaze, her voice barely a whisper. "But then you started asking pointed questions about our new seed sourcing, making comments about unacceptable yield tolerances. The board felt you might become a bottleneck, a liability to our new growth goals. A bottleneck because I insisted on uncompromising crop health, on harvests that would feed nations, not just quarterly reports. A liability because I dared to question some of Eleanor's technically unsound decisions in front of influential clients and board members, prioritizing food security and scientific rigor over her reckless pursuit of speed and cost-cutting. "Show him the contract," Eleanor grunted to Marcus, her voice strained. Marcus, trembling slightly, pulled a sleek folder from his jacket and slid it across the table. Inside was a consulting agreement, a paltry offering of $100,000 to provide technical transition assistance for 90 days. $100,000? I scoffed, a genuine, mirthless laugh escaping me. For 25 years of irreplaceable institutional knowledge, every blueprint of our most complex algorithms, and my intellectual property? That's what you call a generous offer considering the circumstances? Eleanor's face tightened, a mask of fury struggling to contain her desperation. I picked up the contract, its glossy paper feeling flimsy in my hands, and began to read through it. Standard non-disclosure language, restrictive non-compete clauses, and a particularly insidious section requiring me to provide complete, detailed documentation and all-access credentials for all agricultural processes and proprietary techniques developed during my employment. They wanted me to hand over everything, every secret algorithm, every unique nutrient delivery method, every intricate calibration I'd built to ensure Terraform's legendary precision. And in exchange, they'd pay me what Eleanor probably spent on her weekly penthouse floral arrangements. "There's one rather significant problem with this, Eleanor," I stated, closing the folder with a soft, decisive thwack. "What's that?" she demanded, her voice sharp. "You assume I have any desire whatsoever to continue working with you. Or for Terraform." Eleanor's face hardened, her eyes blazing with a desperate, cornered fury. "Alistair, be reasonable. You're unemployed. You're facing potential federal criminal charges, and your reputation in this industry is going to be utterly destroyed when word gets out about today's debacle. This is your chance to walk away with something, anything." "My reputation?" I smiled, a cold, unyielding smile that reached only my lips. "Industrial sabotage isn't exactly a selling point for future employers, is it?" "Eleanor," I continued, leaning forward, my voice resonating with an authority she no longer possessed, a quiet storm gathering. "Do you know who called me this morning?" She looked genuinely confused, her brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" "At 7:30 a.m., before I even arrived at the Terraform headquarters, I received a phone call from Julian Thorne at Verdant Innovations. He wanted to discuss a critical leadership position, their new chief agronomic officer. Seems they've been meticulously watching my work for months, particularly impressed with the precision and unique yield stability I applied to the Harvest Foresight network." Marcus's eyes widened in dawning horror, a silent gasp escaping his lips. Eleanor went utterly pale, a sickly green hue washing over her face, as if all the blood had drained from her veins. "The job pays twice what you were paying me," I continued, relishing the moment, the words a hammer blow. "Plus substantial stock options and a very generous signing bonus." "You're lying," Eleanor stammered, but her voice lacked any conviction, a mere whisper of defiance. I pulled out my phone, its screen a beacon of truth, and showed her the missed call log. 7 missed calls from Verdant Innovations between 7:30 a.m. and 2 p.m., all from Julian Thorne. I paused, letting the information sink in. "He called back during your little board meeting, Eleanor. Left a voicemail asking if I was interested in discussing immediate opportunities. Funny thing is, he already knew I was leaving Terraform. Said he'd heard rumors that significant management upheavals were imminent regarding our research leadership." Eleanor's face went utterly white, a ghostly pallor. That's impossible." "Is it?" I challenged, my gaze piercing. "Who's been handling the Geneva Food Security Conference negotiations for the past 6 months? Who's been providing them with detailed insights into our crop capabilities and data integrity issues?" The truth, a brutal, undeniable force, hit her like a freight train, visible in the sudden, gut-wrenching realization that contorted her features. Sarah Chen, the board member who'd been pushing hardest for operational changes and cost efficiency, was also the former chief operations officer of Verdant Innovations' main competitor, Green Harvest Corp. She'd been meticulously feeding crucial, high-level information to Verdant Innovations for months, helping them understand exactly what Terraform's true agricultural capabilities were, and more importantly, who was truly responsible for them. "Sarah set this up," Eleanor whispered, a tremor of pure terror in her voice. "She orchestrated my downfall. She's been subtly recruiting me since January," I confirmed, my gaze steady, unflinching. Discreet conversations at industry summits, casual questions about my satisfaction with current management, subtle hints about better, more aligned opportunities. "I turned him down, Eleanor, because I thought I owed you loyalty. 25 years of it." Marcus was staring at the table, his eyes wide, probably realizing that his brand new job, the one he'd so eagerly snatched, might not be as secure as he'd naively thought. If Verdant Innovations, armed with my knowledge, poached Terraform's key technical personnel and acquired its core IP, they could undercut every contract bid and effectively steal the entire client base, leaving Terraform a hollow shell. But today changed my mind, I continued, watching the complete, devastating realization dawn in Eleanor's eyes, a slow, agonizing burn. "When you summarily fired me in front of the entire board, you made it abundantly clear that 25 years of partnership, of unwavering trust, meant absolutely nothing. So, I called Julian Thorne back." Eleanor frantically grabbed her phone, her fingers fumbling. "I need to call Sarah. I need to find out what she's planning." "Too late for that." "What do you mean?" she stammered, her voice a desperate plea. I checked my watch, a theatrical gesture, savoring the moment of pure, unadulterated dread on her face. "At 5 p.m. today, Verdant Innovations is officially announcing the acquisition of Terraform Solutions' entire intellectual property portfolio. They've purchased the exclusive rights to our Harvest Foresight network designs, our proprietary growth algorithms, and our resilient crop management protocols." "That's impossible. We own those systems." Eleanor blustered, a last, futile attempt at defiance. but her voice was weak, defeated. You own the land and the equipment. I own the patents and the trade secrets. The silence stretched across the table like an unbridgeable chasm, vast and suffocating. Eleanor's mouth opened and closed without a sound, a fish out of water, gasping for air. Marcus looked like he might vomit right there in the booth, his face a sickly green. The patents, the trade secrets. Eleanor finally managed to croak, her voice barely a whisper, the words a death rattle. Filed meticulously in my name over the past 5 years, I finished for her, each word a nail in the coffin. Every major crop innovation, every unique nutrient delivery solution, every piece of genuinely innovative agritech engineering. My lawyer assured me that as the actual inventor and developer, I retained all intellectual property rights and trade secrets, regardless of my employment agreements. It was true. My attorney had advised me years ago to file patents on my major innovations and meticulously document my unique processes, partly for protection and partly for the simple, well-earned pride of creation. I'd never once imagined I'd need them as leverage against my own company. The Harvest Foresight Network designs alone are valued at 15 million in licensing fees, I continued, piling on the agony, each figure a fresh wound. The proprietary growth algorithms are worth another 25 million. The resilient crop management protocols, biosignature analysis methodologies, genetic optimization techniques, Verdant Innovations estimates the total portfolio value at a staggering $120 million. More than the $100 million grant Eleanor had just lost by firing me. More than Terraform Solutions' entire annual revenue. Enough, in fact, to put her company out of business if a direct competitor controlled this technology. You can't do this, Alistair. Eleanor's voice was a desperate, raw rasp, a plea lost in the wind. I already did. Signed the exclusive licensing agreement an hour ago. Verdant Innovations gets exclusive rights to my patents and trade secrets for 5 years. In exchange, I get a chief agronomic officer position, significant equity in their company, and 25% of all licensing revenue. Eleanor was staring at me, as if I'd suddenly grown a second head, the same expression of bewildered disbelief she'd worn earlier when I told her about the bioresonance calibration. The look of a woman realizing she'd catastrophically miscalculated, that her ruthless ambition had led her to ruin. What happens to Terraform? Marcus asked quietly, his voice barely a whisper, tinged with a desperate hope. That depends entirely on Eleanor, I said, meeting Marcus's gaze squarely, my answer a cold, hard truth. Verdant Innovations is willing to negotiate a licensing agreement that would let you continue using my patents and trade secrets for a fee. How much? Eleanor managed to choke out, the word barely audible. 60% of gross revenue. The number hung in the air like a death sentence, sealing Terraform Solutions' inevitable, agonizing fate. The bankruptcy filing, when it finally came 8 weeks later, felt less like a shock and more like the inevitable settling of dust after a long, violent storm. I was comfortably seated in my new, spacious office at Verdant Innovations' bustling new facility in Sacramento, California, the city lights twinkling outside my panoramic window. I was reviewing intricate genetic modification protocols for a major drought-resistant crop initiative in the Central Valley when my assistant, a bright young woman named Emily, brought me the news. Terraform Solutions had filed for Chapter 11 protection, citing unsustainable operational costs and the unforeseen loss of critical intellectual property and trade secrets. The words, though expected, still carried a faint echo of the past. Eleanor, predictably, had fought tooth and nail. She'd hired 4 different law firms, each more aggressive than the last, challenging my patent claims in federal court, even attempting to have me arrested for corporate espionage. But truth, unlike ambition, is unyielding. Nothing stuck. The patents were legitimately filed and unequivocally mine. The licensing agreement with Verdant Innovations was ironclad, and my departure from Terraform had been entirely her choice, orchestrated by her own short-sighted hand. She'd also tried, with a foolish, desperate bravado, to operate without my patented systems and undocumented techniques. For 3 agonizing weeks, Marcus and a hastily assembled team of contractors attempted to rebuild the entire agricultural infrastructure from scratch, scrambling to create new methods to replace the sophisticated, patented algorithms and proprietary crop management processes. The results were catastrophic. Harvest Foresight Network models failed critical yield predictions, nutrient delivery protocols malfunctioned, and the final presentation for Terraform's largest client, a major national food distributor in New York, went down for 48 grueling hours, causing widespread crop losses and massive financial penalties throughout their supply chain. The lawsuits, a relentless tide, followed swiftly and mercilessly. The food distributor sued for breach of contract. 3 other key national clients immediately terminated their agreements. Verdant Innovations, now armed with my proven, reliable systems and a pristine reputation for genuine innovation, swept in to capture every abandoned contract, establishing itself as the undisputed leader in bespoke agricultural technology. Sarah Chen, the former board member who had played her own subtle game, quietly resigned from the Terraform Solutions board 2 days before the bankruptcy filing. She'd already accepted a lucrative consulting position with Verdant Innovations, helping to seamlessly integrate newly acquired assets and strategically transition former Terraform clients to our superior agronomic capabilities. Her foresight, like mine, had paid off. Marcus Hayes lasted precisely 4 months before Eleanor, in a final, desperate act of corporate self-preservation, had to let him go. The kid, for all his ambition, simply wasn't qualified for the critical position he'd been hired to fill. And without my patented systems and undocumented techniques to maintain, there wasn't enough specialized technical work to justify his exorbitant salary. He ended up taking a junior analyst job with a small consulting firm in Denver, making barely half what Eleanor had so glibly promised him. A harsh lesson learned, no doubt. The final, crushing blow came when the bankruptcy court approved the asset sale. Verdant Innovations purchased Terraform Solutions' client list, farm equipment, and the remaining scraps of intellectual property for less than Eleanor owed in accumulated legal fees. The company that had taken 25 years to meticulously build, the empire my father and I had painstakingly forged from the ground up, was liquidated in a single, ignominious afternoon. A legacy reduced to a footnote. I didn't attend the auction. There was no need. Instead, I spent that Thursday morning working with my new, brilliant team on a comprehensive, AI-driven sustainable farming initiative for a bespoke commission for a renowned agricultural research university in Texas. This was real work. Intricate scientific and ethical challenges that truly mattered. High-impact projects that would be rightfully credited to the dedicated people who actually designed and implemented them, not to those who merely took credit. My wife, David, met me for lunch at a quaint local eatery near the Verdant Innovations facility. She'd been my unwavering support through the entire tumultuous transition, a steadfast beacon in the storm, never questioning my decisions, never once suggesting I should have handled things differently. "Any regrets, my love?" she asked softly, over our gourmet sandwiches and local craft beer, her eyes searching mine. I thought about it. Eleanor Vance had systematically destroyed our partnership, betrayed 25 years of unshakable trust, and brazenly tried to steal credit for my life's singular work. But her short-sighted actions had also, ironically, freed me from a stagnant, toxic situation that was slowly but surely extinguishing my passion for the very craft I loved. It was a liberation, albeit a painful one. "None," I said, meeting her eyes. A deep sense of peace settling over me, a quiet triumph. She smiled, her expression warm and knowing. "Good, because Julian Thorne called this morning. He wants to discuss significantly expanding your team here at Verdant Innovations. He says they're forecasting unprecedented growth in global demand for your patented solutions and unique agronomic expertise." My ideas were truly valued now. My critical contributions were not only recognized but celebrated, and my name proudly appeared on every new patent application. The generous signing bonus had completely paid off our mortgage, freeing us from that burden. The stock options would comfortably fund our retirement, securing our future. The substantial salary was more than enough to let David finally pursue his true passion, opening his own organic farm-to-table restaurant full-time, something he'd dreamed about for years, a dream now within reach. The final chapter of Terraform Solutions, however, was written not in boardrooms or courtrooms, but in the quiet, desolate expanse of barren fields. 6 months after its bankruptcy, a major agricultural client, relying on Terraform's flawed Project YieldMax models, experienced a catastrophic, unexpected crop failure across thousands of acres. The incident, widely reported in agricultural journals and national news, served as a chilling, cautionary tale. The true cost of prioritizing agility and superficial metrics over irreplaceable expertise and deep, empirical understanding of the land. Eleanor Vance, her career in tatters, vanished from the industry's radar, a cautionary whisper in executive circles. Marcus Hayes, after a brief, unremarkable stint in a minor tech firm, found himself out of the industry entirely, a casualty of a battle he never truly understood. Sarah Chen, ever the pragmatist, continued her consulting work, her reputation enhanced by her timely departure from Terraform's sinking ship. And as for Alistair, he found his true north. His name, once synonymous with a single company, now echoed across the vast fertile plains, a testament to the fact that some legacies are too vast, too deeply woven into the fabric of innovation, to ever be truly undone by a single, short-sighted decision. His work, his passion, his very essence, continued to nourish the world, unburdened and unbound.